We are now a year into a special counsel investigation of Donald Trump. The express purpose of this special counsel investigation is to get rid of Donald Trump. It has been the purpose of it since it began. It's been the purpose of every opposition movement, opposition element from the media, the Democrat Party, and leftist activists since Trump won the election. The primary element in this effort to get rid of Donald Trump has been something called the Steele dossier, or the Trump dossier. It is a 36-page document which purportedly claims to have intel that was crafted and discovered by Christopher Steele, a retired British intelligence agency individual who is not even allowed to step foot in Russia, but all of his sources are Russian. And not a single charge, not a single morsel, not a single bit of any of this so-called intelligence in any of the 36 pages has been corroborated. Not a single element of it has been verified. And everybody using it for the express purpose of conducting this investigation knows that none of it has been verified, none of it has been corroborated. We learned months ago that we have been lied to from the beginning about this dossier because it isn't a dossier and it is not a collection of random intelligence gathered by an intelligence officer. It is rather an opposition research document created after being paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat National Committee using Fusion GPS and a law firm called Perkins Coie to actually get the payment or the money for this to Christopher Steele. We know that it has been knowingly used by everybody using it as legitimate intelligence that purports to prove, if and if it can be verified, that Trump colluded with Russia to steal the election. But none of that is true. None of the dossier is true. It is not legitimate anything. It's not intelligence. It's not the result of a guy talking to intelligence sources in Russia, feeding him intel. This is a work of art commissioned by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. It's nothing more than what any campaign would prepare on an opposing candidate. It's called opposition research. But this was different. Usual opposition research tries to collect things that are somewhat truthful, that they can be used at any stage of the campaign, and the later in the campaign, the better, to try to frighten voters that there are things we're just now learning about a candidate that make him unacceptable. This thing was created for the express purpose of having it misused. This thing was created knowingly to be used as phony intelligence. This scandal, this hoax is miles beyond what anybody can conceive. This dossier has been used to secure warrants from one of the most powerful courts in this country, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. That court grants warrants to spy on American citizens in an either directly or indirectly. This document was presented to the FISA court as real, we think, legitimate intelligence. Look, Judge, the allegations in here are very serious. We're in the purpose of tracking them down. We need you to authorize a warrant so that we can further track this down. People doing this, people applying for the warrant, knew that it was nothing more than literally made up BS. Literally made up like somebody would write a novel. And it has been used as the foundation for everything in this investigation. It is a scandal. It is a gigantic hoax. To me, it's the elephant in the room. There are a lot of people looking at this whole investigation, and they see the dossier, and they understand it's a big deal. But they kind of gloss over it because it's easy to conclude what this is. People have been looking at other elements of the investigation, what I call the minutia, and trying to focus on those elements, which are important, do not misunderstand. But they're a little bit tougher to understand, and therefore people can be seen as really smart and brainy if they're able to translate some of these esoteric elements of the investigation, make them understandable to people, like Comey's memos, and whether or not Comey leaked, and all of that. Those are important things, too. There's a lot of things involved here, but the dossier, to me, as you well know, because I've probably driven you crazy talking about it, because it offends the hell out of me, folks. It offends the ever-loving, everything in me that's decent out of me. It is purely fake, and everybody using it knows it and has known it from the get-go. Everybody using this as their primary tool and weapon to get rid of Donald Trump has known from the get-go what it is, because they're all in on it in one way or another. The media knows what it is. They didn't care. They were willing to help the Clinton campaign and the Obama people get this thing out in public as supposedly legitimate intel, because the entire Washington establishment has been devoted to one goal since election night 2016, and that is to get rid of Donald Trump. And they have sought to do this by driving Trump's approval numbers down, which would enable them to say that public opinion supports getting rid of Trump, because you can't get rid of the president without public opinion. You can't just do a wide open coup and say, we don't like this guy, he shouldn't have won, we're going to get rid of him. The American people wouldn't put up with that. So the American people have to be seen as in support of getting rid of a president. That's why you drive the approval numbers down. That's what all of this has been about. They thought it would take them 6 months. They knew what they had in this dossier, and the number one ingredient in the dossier is the so-called P episode, where Trump supposedly hired prostitutes in Moscow. Well, here's what the story is. He found himself in a hotel room in Moscow at the Miss USA pageant. And somebody told him he was in the room that Barack Obama and Michelle used when they were once in Moscow. And Trump then had the idea of calling some prostitutes. When he found out that Obama had slept on the bed he was going to sleep in, that Trump found a way to get hold of some prostitutes in Moscow, have them come over and urinate on the bed. The golden showers element of the dossier. Yep, Trump did all of that because he doesn't like Obama, and it was a great insult to Obama, and we all know Trump's capable of this kind of thing because he's a reprobate. So that is the number one element of this dossier, because it's titillating, because people, wow, prostitutes peeing on a bed. You can see that in your own mind. You don't need some think tank intellectual explaining and breaking it down for you. That you can understand. And that can make you sick. That could just tick you off. So trying to make that believable, including that, something titillating as the high point, quote unquote, of the dossier. Everybody involved, media doing the reporting, FBI leaders, CIA leaders, Director of National Intelligence people, they all knew that there wasn't a shred of truth in this. Even the whole idea that they're going to try to verify it and corroborate it is BS. It was written as a political opposition document. It is not intelligence. Furthermore, what does intelligence have to do with a so-called criminal investigation? Oh, wait, this isn't a criminal investigation. It's a counterintelligence investigation, which permits all kinds of expansive opportunities to include oddball evidence. There was never any attempt to corroborate this. There's nothing to corroborate. The stuff in this is made up. There might be some elements in it that are fairly close, like such and such was in Belgrade on such and such a date. I mean, Steele made sure to include some things in here that could plausibly have happened or could be discovered to have happened in order to give credibility to other elements, such as the P tape. But everybody involved knew there's nothing to corroborate here because it's a work of fiction. Who would go corroborate a novel? You don't do that. You read it for the enjoyment of it. That's all this is. It's all it has ever been. And everybody involved knows it and has been lying to us through their teeth as they perpetuate the myth and the lie of this. And look what this dossier has begot. We are now dab in the middle of an out-of-control special counsel investigation for which there's no evidence that's been procured that has anything to do with the central reason the investigation exists. Trump collusion with Russia. People's lives are being ruined. Their economic circumstances are being destroyed. It is a scandal. Maybe the biggest scandal in my lifetime, and maybe in modern American history. I can't speak for the scandals that happened in the 1700s and 1800s. But if there is something as bad, it's not that much worse than this. Is at the top of the heap for me. And all of this actually has as a secondary purpose, and that is to hide all of the potentially illegal activity that took place top to bottom in the Obama administration during the campaign to deny Donald Trump his election victory. So this investigation of Trump is to see, if Hillary Clinton had won, you'd have never heard about this dossier, and you'd have never heard about Christopher Steele, and you would have never heard, there wouldn't be a special counsel. And we wouldn't know 90% of what we know regarding actions taken by the intelligence community and other areas of the Washington establishment, because if Hillary had won, everybody here would still have their jobs in the administration, and we wouldn't know anything. All of this, in addition to getting Trump, is designed to protect the people who have orchestrated and implemented this scandal. So James Comey comes out with his book, and it's smarmy, and he ends up being smarmy after having seen him in TV a couple of times here. And I first had my interest piqued in the Comey relationship to the dossier. It was two times he mentioned the dossier to the president: January 6th, 2017, January 27th, 2017. And on the latter occasion, January 27th, the reason for mentioning this to Trump was to make it news and permit the dossier to be reported on. It was circulating throughout Washington all during the summer of 2016. And even as late as 2015. But everybody knew what it was. They couldn't run it. It was BS, but they needed a reason to run it. And they finally found a reason to run it when it was determined that Comey would show it to Trump. As an example of the kind of stuff that's out there, Mr. President, we need to be vigilant protecting you. Trump had no idea what was going on at the time. Trump had no idea. He's under the impression that all these people are on his team. He's the president. Here's the FBI director. He's under the impression that these are people maybe not in agreement with him, but they're patriots. They're here to protect him. He's the president. He won the election. He made a miscalculation in determining the intentions and objectives of these people. Now he knows. So Comey, I first saw him answer questions about the dossier with George Stephanopoulos. That was the first nationwide interview, Sunday night special edition of 2020. Stephanopoulos gets to the question about the dossier. He says, did you tell the president that the dossier was actually political opposition research from the Clinton campaign? Comey, no, I don't believe so. You didn't? No, I really don't believe it. In fact, Comey said, I don't even think I called it the Steele dossier. And he just glossed over it, and Stephanopoulos dropped it. And I was not satisfied. Because that was the question to ask. Did you tell the president this thing's not legitimate? Did you tell the president that everything driving this investigation is nothing more than the ramblings of a Hillary Clinton political operative? No, it didn't occur to me. It didn't occur to you. So I've been watching every subsequent interview of Comey, and I've been eager to see how many people in the drive-by media would expand on this and focus in on it. Nobody did till last night. Bret Baier. You know what Bret Baier, Fox News Channel, showed last night? How journalism is done. I've seen people sent me emails. You know, I felt like I was watching Tim Russert again last night. Russert was a guy considered, everybody knew he was a sympathizer of liberal Democrats, but meet the press, straight down the middle, fair. He could ask pointed questions of people from all different ideologies and not appear to be partisan in his effort. That's the way Bret Baier came across. And I find it fascinating. Everybody's running around in the drive-bys ripping Fox as illegitimate, ripping Fox as doing great damage to the institution of journalism. The only journalism I've seen, real journalism in a long time, was last night with Bret Baier. The way he interviewed Comey, it was unlike any other interview Comey has seen. Comey even showed up late for it. Fathom this. The interview starts at 6. At 6:15, he shows up, sends a text to Fox, says, "I'm in traffic." How do you not account for traffic? You had a live interview at 6 o'clock. Get there at 5. But he was in traffic. But it didn't stop Baier from getting to the crux of it. It comes to the who paid for the Steele dossier. Folks, everybody knows it now. It's been admitted to. It's been revealed. It's been uncovered. Fusion, GPS, Steele, it's been uncovered. The Clinton campaign did it. Everybody knows it. Comey on television last night said he still doesn't know this. He's only seen it in the media. This is simply not credible. It doesn't even approach being credible. Here is an edited version of the soundbite, including, now it doesn't have the question. The question, Bret Baier said, when did you learn the DNC and the Hillary campaign had funded Christopher Steele's dossier?
I still don't know that for a fact.
What do you mean?
I've only seen it in the media. I never knew exactly which Democrats had funded. I knew it was funded first by Republicans.
Stop the tape.
Right
there. James Comey has just revealed his pure partisan nature in this entire thing. To try in the middle of this answer to blame the existence of the dossier on the Republicans? I want you to rewind this answer back to the top, Mike. But I had to stop it there. Nobody other than Comey has tried. Well, somebody obviously has because he's seen it tried somewhere. I'm going to give you the history of this at the end of the bite. But for Comey, no. In fact, I think this all started with the Republicans. He knows what happened. To try now to take the pressure off of Hillary and her campaign and blame this on the Republicans, while Comey runs around trying to be the paragon of virtue and a guy who's not ideologically inclined, he's only trying to uphold honor and integrity and morality and decency. And we have this scum bucket in the White House, and it's just offensive to me. And I can't tolerate it. And I, St. Comey the Infallible, I single-handedly am going to rid the White House of this poison and pestilence. They're crafting an image of this guy as unimpeachably honorable, reeking, seeping integrity. And yet with this answer, James Comey shows he is every bit the leftist partisan that anybody else in this investigation is. Here we go again from the top.
I still don't know that for a fact.
What do you mean?
I've only seen it in the media. I never knew exactly which Democrats had funded. I knew it was funded first by Republicans, opposed to Donald.
But that's not true.
I'm sorry?
That's not true. That the dossier that Christopher Steele worked on was funded by Republicans?
My understanding was his work started funded by, as Oppo Research, funded by Republicans.
So Free Beacon said that they had Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS on a kind of a retainer, but they did not fund the Christopher Steele memo or the dossier. That was initiated by Democrats.
Okay, my understanding was the activity was begun, that Steele was hired to look into, was first funded by Republicans, then picked up, the important thing was picked up by Democrats opposed to Donald Trump.
Right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is, I don't know what Comey's trying to do here. To the best of my knowledge, what I was told, my understanding, what do you mean your understanding? You are the freaking FBI director. You're in charge of all of this. I'm sorry if I'm losing my cookies here, folks, but this is simply unacceptable. Acting like a bystander is what Obama used to do while implementing Obamacare and these other destructive policies, act like he had nothing to do with it. And Comey's doing the same thing. My understanding is, well, people told me, well, I saw it in the media. You're running this investigation, pal. You're exonerating Hillary Clinton. You're assuming powers you don't have to announce that she's not going to be prosecuted. Now, here's the story on this. The Free Beacon, Washington Free Beacon, during the Republican primaries didn't like Trump. And they had certain candidates that they liked. So they hired Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, to start digging up some dirt because that's what Fusion GPS does. They're political opposition research. He's a former journalist for the Wall Street Journal and a so-called security expert. And he's got a chock-full Rolodex for anybody that matters in Washington and Aspen and wherever there are Washington establishment think tanks. So the Free Beacon hires this firm to try to dig up dirt during the primaries, and they abandon it. The Free Beacon abandons it. The Free Beacon had nothing to do with the Steele dossier. And Comey knows it. Comey is trying to sit here and say that Fusion GPS began work with Christopher Steele after the Republicans hired Fusion GPS. This is unacceptable because this is a partisan attempt to obfuscate and deceive because he knows better. He knows full well that Christopher Steele did nothing for the Republican Party. He knows full well that Fusion GPS ended up doing nothing for the Republican Party because Free Beacon canceled the deal with them. They weren't happy with what they were getting. It wasn't going to stop whatever they didn't want to happen in the Republican primaries. And Brett Baer is pointing this out. But that's not true. That's not true. I'm sorry. You dare challenge me, Baer? I'm sorry. You say I said something not true? I can see this attitude. I can hear this attitude. Well, my understanding was that his work, Christopher Steele, funded by Republicans, opposition research funded by Republicans. What an ever-loving crock. And that little element of this answer betrays and shines a floodlight on Comey's partisanship. He knows full well where this dossier came from. He knew it when they used it to get a FISA warrant. He knew it when he presented it to Donald Trump. He did not tell President Trump this thing was a bogus political opposition research document. He presented it to Trump, like Clapper did and like Brennan did, as legitimate intelligence. To the point that Trump said to them, do I look like a guy that needs to hire hookers? To the point that Trump said, my guy, you better tell people that's not true. Hiring hookers to pee on a bed, I can't, if my wife sees that. And Comey uses that as evidence to suggest that Trump is guilty. What it shows is they were lying to Trump about this whole dossier, who wrote it, its origins, and its contents. And Comey's taking notes all this time and writing them up later as memos. And he's doing this while he's the FBI director. And then he leaks these memos to a buddy of his who nobody knows is working for the FBI as well, this Richmond guy. And Comey wants his memos leaked because that's what it'll take to get a special counsel named and hired. And Comey's now saying, wait a minute, I'd been fired. I couldn't leak anything. I wasn't at the FBI. These are not leaks. Well, they sure as hell were, because there was classified information in them, i.e. his conversations with Trump as FBI director. Only Trump can determine what is classified and what isn't, and if anything's going to be declassified, what it is. But this answer on the dossier, my understanding, well, I saw it in the media, well, what I've been told is as though he's a bystander, as though he doesn't have direct knowledge. He has more than direct knowledge. He has direct hands-on use of this thing. My understanding was the activity was begun. Steele was hired to look into first funded by Republicans. Steele never looked at Republicans. The Free Beacon has said so. The Free Beacon put out a statement. Let me read it to you. Last October, Free Beacon, all of the work Fusion GPS provided to Free Beacon was based on public sources, and none of the work product that the Free Beacon received from Fusion GPS appears in the Steele dossier. The Free Beacon had no knowledge of or connection to the Steele dossier, did not pay for the dossier, never had contact with, knowledge of, or provided payment for any work provided by Christopher Steele. And yet here's Comey. Well, my understanding was the activity was when Steele was hired to look into the first funded by Republicans. It's the FBI director. This is not some lowly chump in the drive-by media not having his facts. It's the FBI director. My understanding is that Steele worked for the Republicans. It demonstrates Comey's ability to prevaricate. It demonstrates Comey's rank, ideological, partisan position on this to try. I'm sure that this answer was calculus. Comey knows what he's going to get going to Fox. He even said in his interview with Anderson Cooper the night before, he was joking to Anderson, I'm going to appear on a network tomorrow night that wants me in jail. Brett Baer should have opened the interview putting a pair of handcuffs on the table, if you ask me. Just to lighten the mood. Wouldn't you have loved to see that? Comey on CNN, yeah, I'm going on Fox. They want me in jail. Comey shows up. Comey shows late on Fox. Baer whips out the handcuffs. Toy handcuffs, of course. But Comey had to know he's going to get this question. He knows Stephanopoulos lets him get away. He knows CNN's going to accept whatever he says because they're all in on getting Trump. But Fox isn't. Brett Baer's not in on getting Trump, nor is he in on getting Comey. Brett Baer is on finding what the hell happened and doing his best to get truthful answers from people he's talking to. That's I think, what he's trying for here. So somebody in the Comey camp, they had to sit down and say, what's the best way to answer this? What's the best way to talk about why we didn't tell anybody what we knew about this dossier? Let's blame it on the Republicans. Nobody's going to expect that. That'll shut them down. That'll shock them so much they won't know what to do with it. Let's blame it on the Republicans. And Comey, his whole attitude last night, I thought it was pretty smarmy, but he's coming off like he's distant and not sure of his motives. Well, I might have been doing it for that reason. You know, I have to think about that. It's a good question. I might have had some morality problems. I mean, it was flat out amazing. We're watching somebody as talented as Bill Clinton, folks, deal with these questions. But the chutzpah to try to act like he's a bystander that doesn't have all the information. My understanding is, well, I saw in the media, well, some people told me that when he's leading the charge on all of this, he and Brennan at the CIA. I have to take a break. We'll be back after in town in Detroit. John, glad to have you here. Open line Friday. You're up first. What's shaking? What's happening? What's up?
Not much is shaking, Rush. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
I was watching clips of the Comey interview with Anderson Cooper, and I noticed something. He said that he was a private citizen. When he got fired, he was a private citizen, and then he gave documents to his friend at Columbia. I'm wondering if he got fired, should he have had access to any documents
This is
whatsoever?
why I wanted to take John's call, because this is an astute and shrewd, he's really paying attention, observation. Note how Comey is using the same lame excuse that Hillary used about sending classified emails, that they weren't classified when he leaked them. No, I had been fired. I was a private citizen. I couldn't leak anything. Same flimsy excuse that Hillary used. And they let her get away with it. And since Hillary got away with it, Comey's going to use it to get away with it, because who's going to call Comey out on this? Nobody. I got an email during the break. You sound really mad, just so you know. Good, I am. This stuff ticks me off, folks. Like I said yesterday, where are we going to go to get this fixed? We have two legal systems. We have two different sets of application of law here going on in this country right now. And the powerful people in the Washington establishment have set it up so they don't have to pay attention to the law while going after other people who haven't broken the law. Damn right I'm mad. So I said yesterday, where's the reckoning? How does this get fixed? Interestingly, Kimberly Strassel, column in the Wall Street Journal, has an interesting idea about this. Not only interesting, it's brilliant, it's right on the money, and I've in various other forms of it, I've heard other people suggest one of her suggestions, which I will explain to you in the opening segments of the next hour. But John, thanks very much. Here's the thing. These documents, these memos that Comey leaked and the classified documents that Hillary leaked, and Comey trying to say, well, wait a minute now. They weren't classified when I leaked them. I was a private citizen. I was not bound by. Well, they were born classified according to the law. Comey's the FBI director. He's meeting with Trump, and he memorializes these meetings. He never did this with Obama, by the way. He goes home and immediately starts typing notes about his meetings with Trump. Well, the minute he does that, they are classified. They are conversations with the president. It doesn't matter. He could be in Timbuktu when he releases them. They are classified. They remain the property of the FBI. But Comey said last night, no, they were for my, think of it this way, they were for my diary. I have two copies. I left one copy with the FBI, and the other copy is in my personal safe at home. My personal safe at home. So when I leaked them, I had been fired. I was not a private citizen. They were intelligence conversations with the president when he had them and when he wrote them. And he leaked them to his buddy at the Columbia, whose name is Richmond. What we also learned, Comey had hired this guy Richmond to be sort of like a independent contractor. He was not on the payroll of the FBI, but he was working there as one, Comey's, what would you call it? Assistants, some such thing. But Comey said that he wanted the existence of these memos and their release to lead to the special counsel. He wrote the memos in such a way that when Trump fired him, it would look like Trump is obstructing justice and trying to stop the investigation. We can't have that. Here comes special counsel. It worked out exactly as Comey planned, because all of his buddies, Rosenstein and the rest of them, Mueller, were in on it. The FISA judge was told that the FBI trusted totally the credibility of Steele, that they loved this guy, that they believed what he produced, that he was extremely valuable. And then Steele broke an agreement with him. Steele promised that he promised the FBI he would not discuss any of his work for them with the media, but he blew it. And Steele started talking to the media about the work he was doing for the FBI. So the FBI, Comey, rescinded that $50,000 offer to Steele to keep working, and they cut him loose. And all of this was in the Washington Post. So you telling me it never occurred to anybody at the FBI to ask Steele who'd been paying him, even though they were going to use this info to get a FISA warrant? They knew who paid him. They knew it was the Clinton campaign. They know all of this. Comey's effort is to make it look like it doesn't matter. Now we're so far past this. Let me tell you why it matters. This entire year-and-a-half investigation, this entire special counsel of a year is bogus, folks, and it's destroying this country. It's ripping this country apart, and half of the people believe the lies. 40% of the people in this country are believing every line of every lie being told by these people. It's creating partisan divides like we haven't had since the Civil War. It is doing great, great damage to the very fabric of this country because so many people believe a bunch of stuff that has not happened, that didn't happen. The Russians did not determine the outcome of our election, but you can't convince 35, 40% of the country that. They are convinced, they believe it. We are blowing up our system of law. The rule of law is under direct assault. It's disintegrating, and all because of a phony, fake dossier that everybody involved knew was phony and fake. The special counsel should never have been named. Michael Flynn should still have his house. His life should not be in tatters. He shouldn't have to sacrifice everything he's earned in order to keep his family together, stay out of jail. All of this and more is entirely unnecessary and is only happening because a bunch of egghead, arrogant, establishment types don't like the fact that Donald Trump won the election.
And now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
And we're back at it. Here the number again, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushmo@eibnet.us. Now back to some sound bites from the Brett Baier interview on Fox last night. The next question has to do with the FISA warrant and information that was provided along with the dossier to get the FISA warrant. Remember, the FISA warrant was supposedly necessary to spy on Carter Page. Carter Page, who was an incidental, ancillary Trump campaign official that Trump never even met. The FISA warrant, using the dossier and other information to spy on Carter Page. Could somebody tell me if Carter Page was so damned important to get a FISA warrant, where is he in the Mueller investigation? Why wasn't the FISA warrant procured to go get Manafort? Or Flynn? Why, Carter Page? Are you kidding me? Carter Page isn't even in this investigation. You never even hear his name anymore. So Brett Baier's question. You call the dossier unverified. You call the dossier salacious. So why did you use that, the FISA court, to ask for surveillance of Carter Page? Not only used it, but you led with it. A bulk of that FISA application deals with this dossier. Why?
That's not my recollection, Brett. And I don't know that the FISA application has been released. My recollection was it was part of a broader mosaic of facts that were laid before the FISA judge to obtain a FISA warrant.
There was a lot more than the dossier in the FISA application?
My recollection was there was a significant amount of additional material about Page and why there was probable cause to believe he was an agent of a foreign power. And the dossier was part of that, but was not all of it or a critical part of it.
That's not true either, according to so many other people who have investigated this and found the dossier was 80% of the application. There were two FISA warrant requests. The first one in the spring of 2016 was turned down. The second one with the dossier was granted. Now, this answer, what do you mean? This is not my recollection. The FBI director, you were taking notes on everything. not only used it, but you led with the bulk of that FISA application deals with the dossier. Not my recollection. But no, sir, it wasn't. You're misunderstanding me here, Mr. Baer. It wasn't. Oh, it's not my recollection, Brett. Yeah, I don't know that the FISA application's been released. Well, it damn well should be, along with everything else in this investigation, and Donald Trump can do it. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's one of the suggestions that Kimberly Strassel has in her column today, to head all of this off at the pass. My recollection was it was part of a broader mosaic of facts that were laid before the FISA judge to obtain a FISA warrant. There's a lot more than the FISA application. Oh, yes, my memory is that, my recollection is, of course, what ho-hum. So Baer then asked Comey, what is the crime or the collusion that launches this investigation?
Collusion's not a word that I'm familiar with. I've seen
what
it
is
in
the
media.
crime? What is the evidence, basically, that launches?
The question is, you open a counterintelligence investigation to understand, are any Americans in cahoots with the foreign intelligence activities of an adversary nation?
I'm not familiar with the word collusion. What do we do with this? I prefer the word cahoots. I'm not, he says that because collusion is not a crime. Neither is cahoots, for that matter. What's the crime? What was the evidence that launches all this? The question is, you open a counterintelligence investigation, understand why are any Americans in cahoots. Well, look, we're back now to the fundamentals. Yeah, they opened a counterintelligence investigation. What did they make this look like? They were making it look like a criminal investigation. We need to go through this all again, the difference in evidence and the difference in intelligence. And the reason why counterintelligence investigations are not criminal is because intelligence is not evidence. Intelligence is raw, it is biased, sometimes your sources lie to you. That's why the CIA has reams of analysts that pour through all of it and come to their best conclusions as to what it means, but it's never used in court because it's never exposed. Intel is never released. You would compromise everybody involved in it if you did. This was to have been a criminal investigation, and a crime was to have been specified by Rosenstein when he charged Mueller with this, but a crime wasn't specified because, as Comey said, it's a counterintelligence investigation. Well, by definition, there aren't any crimes there. Counterintelligence investigation, yet everybody in this country has believed that Mueller and the gang are pursuing crimes committed by Trump, with the dossier as the lead exhibit. This whole program was hatched after Hillary lost the election, and it was hatched for all of the reasons that we have mentioned and specified, to protect Obama, to protect Hillary. They all thought Hillary was going to win, and all this nefarious activity they've been engaged in was therefore going to remain hidden because the same people would stay in power, forever covering it up and hiding it. Now that's all out the window. Now we got a whole bunch of people coming in that weren't expected. Trump's going to appoint people. Look what they're going to find. We cannot allow this to happen. The crime is that Donald Trump won the election. What has them upset and angry is that Donald Trump won the election. Here we go with Brett Baer's next question. We're up to soundbite number 16 here. FBI protocol says that your own employment agreement with the FBI prohibits the unauthorized disclosure of any information or material from or related to FBI files or any information acquired by virtue of your official employment without prior written permission from the FBI. Did you have written permission to leak this
No,
stuff?
and I didn't consider it part of an FBI file, all the things I talked about with
You wrote
Anderson.
it as an FBI director. It was a work product.
No, it was not. It was my personal
You're
aid to
talking
memoir.
to the president?
Sure. I created 2 copies of it, one to keep in my personal safe at home, and I left another one at the FBI so the Bureau could always have access to it. But I always thought of it as mine, like a diary.
There it is. There's the Hillary excuse. Well, I didn't leak classified. I wasn't Secretary of State. I wasn't Secretary of State. And Comey was some of it. And Comey is saying, I wasn't the FBI director. These were all personal recollections. No. This is classified information because it's the result of conversations with the president, means it's classified. Everything with the president is. It's born classified is the term. You write down a meeting you had with the president, it's classified. It's born that way. So whether Comey releases it while he's at the FBI or as a private citizen has to unlock his private safe at home to get it, it's still leaking classified information. He's denying it. No, it wasn't part of the FBI file. It was right there in my personal safe. But you left a copy at the FBI. Well, yes, but it was for my memoirs. It was like, think of it as my diary. This is the impeccable, the unimpeachable, the just overflowing with integrity former FBI director, denying that he did what he did. So Brett Baer next says, well, who else did you give, leak, whatever you want to call it? Who else got this stuff?
The
Give is
memos
what I
too.
prefer.
Yeah, the memos too.
I gave the memos to my legal team after I gave them to Dan Richmond, after I asked him to get it out to the media.
And
Gave 4 memos to my legal team.
Which included Patrick Fitzgerald.
Patrick Fitzgerald.
He was a legal team at that time.
Correct, sure.
And
David Kelly.
and
Dan Richmond.
So these are all the people Comey's leaking this stuff to. Oh, yeah. Well, who else got this? But I wasn't leaking. You see, it was my private memoirs. It was my collection for my diary. So forth. Now, we don't have the sound bites for this, but there's another important exchange. Brett Baer asked Comey if he thought McCabe should be prosecuted. Because McCabe, according to the Inspector General report, has lied to investigators 4 different times. 4 different times. So Baer asked Comey, should McCabe be prosecuted? Comey said, well, that's not for me to say. Brett Baer said, wait a minute. You said it in the Clinton case. You said that Hillary should not be prosecuted. Comey, well, I was the director of the FBI then. Baer. But even as director of the FBI, you did not, that was not your role to determine who gets prosecuted. And it's a key point. The July 5th press conference is what they're talking about here. Where Comey goes out and lists all the crimes Hillary committed, but then tells us no reasonable prosecutor would pursue it because she didn't intend to break any of these laws. And in Comey, St. Comey announces that he will not press charges. He will not recommend that charges be brought, and he will not do it himself. Wait a minute, you're not the Attorney General. Loretta Lynch is, and she's over there with Clinton on the tarmac in Phoenix. And Brett Baer is simply pointing out, what do you mean you're not going to say whether McCabe should be prosecuted? You said Hillary should not be. Baer, yeah, well, I was FBI director then. And Baer properly says, yeah, and you didn't have the power to say it then either. So what's stopping you now? Comey, I'm a private citizen. Private citizens should not be calling for the prosecution of people in a case they're not involved in. Give me a not involved in? But I do believe, as it routinely happens, the IG will likely refer or has referred it to a U.S. Attorney's Office to look at. I'm a private citizen, so I can't leak. I'm a private citizen, so I'm not going to tell you whether McCabe should be prosecuted or not. So did you, this is Baer, did you see the disparity here? Where people look at how the Clinton case was handled and how the Trump case is handled, Comey says, I don't see any disparity here. I don't see any disparity. He's got this exactly backwards. As the head of the FBI, Comey is not the person to determine whether or not Hillary gets charged, prosecuted, what have you. But he said she shouldn't be anyway. Now he's out there making all kinds of pronouncements as a private citizen. Trump's not qualified. Trump's unfit. Trump's a moral reprobate. But wait a minute, you're just a private citizen. Why can you say that now? We know that you also thought it as FBI director. You want us to believe it had nothing to do with the way you pursued the investigation. I wouldn't say that. Recollection is that I haven't had any bias. What an absolute crock all of this is. There are things that happen in North Korea. Look, I'm not trying to take credit away from Donald Trump. Do not misunderstand. But I think there's a lot more to this than is being reported about why all of a sudden Kim Jong-un is promising to stop all of his nuclear activity and all that. And you're going to love it when you hear it. It's coming up. Plus Kimberly Strassel and her suggestions on how to stop all of it. This investigation is not even criminal. It's not even, it's all politics. The losers are getting away with running a phony, fake, bogus so-called investigation against somebody that won an election. The losers are getting away with this. And there's nothing criminal that's happened here. Unless you go back to 2013 and 14 and want to charge Paul Manafort for winking the wrong way at some Russians. Anyway, Bob in Spokane, Washington, back at you, sir. We're going back to phones. How you doing?
Hey, Rush, doing great. Thanks for taking the call, and a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I listened to Brett Baer's interview last night, and you just played the soundbite of it. And Comey says, oh, those weren't really official FBI documents. Those were memoirs or a diary, if you will. And I took them home, and I put them in my personal safe. And then he says, and underline this, and I left a copy with the FBI to have access. Why would he leave personal documents with the FBI to have access? Does he bring his diary from home and leave it there?
Because they were the property of the FBI.
Correct. He knows. It begs the question, and I got to think he knew they were FBI documents. That's why he left them there. And now he's claiming, they're just personal memoirs.
Right.
Doesn't wash.
Well, that's so he can avoid being found guilty of leaking. No, I didn't leak.
Well, somebody's going to ask him at some point, well, if they're your personal memoirs, why'd you leave them with the FBI?
Well, wait, who's going to ask him? This is my whole point. Who's going to ask him? Aside from Brett Baer.
We'll go on Brett Baer again. You ask him. We just did.
But if I ask him, it's not going to change anything.
Correct.
A prosecutor needs to ask him.
Correct. But
he needs to be answering these questions on a witness stand.
It begs the question, what'd you leave them there with the FBI for?
Well, they were
if you truly believe they're your personal
memoirs. Because he alluded in his, I wanted the Bureau to know.
Well, you said he's as sharp as Bill Clinton, but I think he missed it on that one. So.
No, he's assuming that his buddies in the media are going to gloss all over this, and they're going to carry forward the message that none of this really matters now. We're so far and none of this really matters. He's counting on everything every liberal Democrat out there counts on, and that is 100% defense, interference, and support from the drive-by media. I will guarantee you. Remember, Miss Clinton was asked in a campaign about her email server classified documents. Somebody in one of her very few press conferences, do you think you'll be indicted? No way. Who are you? Get the hell out of here. Indicted? I guarantee Comey thinks this. There's no way. None of these people think that they're ever going to be held accountable. Why, they occupy the moral high ground. They're trying to save America from this reprobate pig in the White House. So he doesn't expect to have to ever answer that question for real. It's my whole point. When's this going to ever happen if it does? Folks, I don't want to diminish it. I'm not trying to suggest that it's not important, because it clearly is. But you should know that members of the Trump administration are not buying into this yet. And Trump is still saying that he's going to be prepared to walk out if he thinks anything of this is not on the up and up. It is historic. This is the first North Korean communist potbelly dictator to actually walk across the border into South Korea. The South Koreans have gone north since 1954, but the North Koreans have never come south. They've never crossed the DMZ. Kim Jong-un did. Believe me, he wants to eat, and they're running out of that in North Korea. They're probably running out of Johnny Walker Blue Label in North Korea as well. You got to go to the South to get it. We've seen the pictures of the South Korean president smiling and hugging with Kim Jong-un. And by the way, the image remake on Kim Jong-un is well underway. On Twitter, you can find, this guy's so cute. This is so cute. We love this guy. Supposedly from South Koreans. He's so cute. And man, this guy could do stand-up. This guy's so funny. It's amazing how mass murderers get romanticized by the American left. At any rate, everybody said, what happened here? Why all of it? I mean, just months ago, this guy's threatening to launch a nuclear missile and hit California. And then Trump starts calling him Rocket Man, and Trump starts saying, we're not going to put up with this. You better think twice about this. Send Pompeo over there to talk to him, secret meeting, and all of a sudden, Kim Jong-un, they're having a peace summit today. Probably already happened because they're 12, 14 hours ahead of us over there. So it's 1:30 in the morning or 2:30 there. It's in that ballpark. They may be 10 hours, and I'm not sure I could find it in a jiffy if I wanted to waste time and call it up on my world clock. But for the most part, I mean, Kim Jong-un may not be in bed because everybody knows he's a big playboy. And they don't have any nightclubs in North Korea, so it's another reason he crossed the DMZ and went south. Loves those disco lights. But seriously, what changed? Well, it's been reported out there in the South China Morning Post, which is a good paper. I read that once when I was in Hong Kong years and years ago. Rupert Murdoch owns it. And the Washington Post has also got a brief little story about what's really going on. And as a prelude to that, we have a CNN story. South Korea credits Trump for talks with the North. You know how it had to hurt CNN to write that headline on their website. I can't wait till they have to report Trump wins Nobel Prize. You think if it's verified that the Norks have parked their nukes that Trump would get the Nobel Peace Prize? They don't think it's going to happen. Ain't going to happen, folks. Ain't going to happen. And they're not going to take Obama. Oh, speaking of Obama, Ronnie Jackson, the guy up for VA. They ran him out of town. He's been there for all those years and not one complaint about the guy. He was Obama's personal doctor. He was Michelle's personal doctor in the White House. He doctored both of them. No mention of the guy being a drunkard. No mention of him passing out Schedule C, Schedule 3 prescription medication to anybody who wanted it. No mention of ramming cars while drunk. No mention of it until Trump wants to name him VA. After years and years and years of being the personal White House doctor to Michelle Maybell and Barack Hussein, do you realize neither of those people surfaced to say one supportive thing of their doctor when this all happened? Not one thing. Not one. It's 2:37 in the sort of 13 hours ahead, 2:37 a.m. Saturday in South Korea. So the clubs are just getting going in many areas. I'm guessing that's where you'd find Kim Jong-un with his security detail, which is eating raw corn because that's all they've got. So anyway, back to North Korea here in CNN. There is a somebody named Kang Kyung-hwa in South Korea, told CNN that Trump had played a significant role in bringing the two sides together. Clearly, credit goes to President Trump, said Kang Kyung-hwa to CNN's Christiane Amanpour in Seoul. He's been determined to come to grips with this from day one. President Trump's rhetoric, of course, has shifted on North Korea as a summit became a more real possibility. In August, Trump threatened fire and fury like the world's never seen. In September, he said Rocket Man's on a suicide mission. This week, he said that Kim Jong-un had been very open, I think very honorable. I predicted this. I told you way back. Everybody didn't know what Trump was doing by calling him Rocket Man. I said, Trump knows the guy's insane, and so Trump's dealing with him as a fellow insane leader. He knows the only thing that Kim Jong-un's going to react to is another insane leader, and it worked. So Trump goes what appears to be insane on Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un thinks he owns insane. So here comes Trump. You know what Kim Jong-un did? He called people in Washington seeking advice on how to deal with the guy. Trump has played this masterfully. There's no question about it. But there are other reasons why this happened. And they involve nuclear testing. The nub of this is that Kim Jong-un's nuclear testing has destroyed a couple of mountains where the testing was taking place. And one of the mountains, it was like a volcano, a hole was created in the top and radiation may be seeping out of it. And it's near the border with China, and the Chi-Coms are livid at Kim Jong-un. And essentially they've said, what the hell are you doing? You shut this down right now. Because literally they're destroying mountains. Their nuclear testing has put the geography of certain areas of North Korea in grave danger, according to 2 studies. And it's the Chi-Coms that have made these studies public. This is a fascinating thing here, folks. Because everybody, this is a about face like we haven't seen. I mean, one day, Kim Jong-un's threatening destruction, and literally the next week he's suing for peace. According to 2 studies authorized by Chi-Com scientists and reported by the Wall Street Journal, which means the Chi-Coms had to release this data, the North Korean nuclear weapons have been too effective. Let me give you an excerpt. A large part of North Korea's underground nuclear test facility, which leader Kim Jong-un pledged to close, is unusable now anyway due to the collapse of a cavity inside the mountain after the last nuclear test there, say the Chi-Com scientists. Seismologists involved in a soon-to-be-published study warned that another test in the same spot could cause an environmental catastrophe throughout the region, not just in North Korea. Soon after the 6th and largest blast last September, satellite images suggested that one part of the site, a 7,200-foot granite mountain called Mount Mantap, I'm not making that up, Mount Mantap had diminished in height. Some U.S. and South Korean experts suggested that tunnels inside the mountain, which you would need the tunnels to move the missiles into place. You have to have, pathways to get all the equipment in place to do the test. Experts are suggesting that tunnels had collapsed, rendering much of the test site useless. And now 2 Chi-Com studies give credence to that theory. They both use data from seismic monitoring stations in China and abroad to analyze the 6.3 magnitude tremor caused by the last test. There was a tremor, an aftershock after that last test, 6.3 magnitude, another one 8.5 minutes later. That was almost like another test that nobody knew was coming. That's how much damage Kim Jong-un is doing to his own mountain. His own test mountain has collapsed on his missiles. His own test mountain has collapsed, and a giant hole is now in the top of the mountain where it is feared radiation is seeping through like it would be from a volcano. The blast in September was the last conducted at this particular mountain, although there seems to be some debate over whether it remains functional, but a lot of people think that it isn't. And if all of this has happened, and we again, both the South China Morning Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, because the Chi-Coms have released their seismology, their study. The Chi-Coms want that. Now, it could be trickery. They may be lying to us. The mountain hasn't been destroyed, and Kim Jong-un's not sunsetting anything, and this is a giant fake meeting that Kim Jong-un's nukes are still going to be valid. But the best thinking on this is that the Chi-Coms are fit to be tied over what this guy has done. exposing that whole region to nuclear radiation, and that they have ordered it to shut this down. The test was not only destabilizing, but increasing the risk of eruption of the Changbai Mountain. That's a larger active volcano right at the Chicom-Korean border. If that's true, then there is no doubt that Xi Jinping, the head Chicom leader, has made it perfectly clear to Kim Jong-un, if you continue to want to swallow Johnny Walker Blue, then you're going to shut this crap down right now. We're not going to let you and your incompetence kill us. Now, if all that's true, if Kim Jong-un has basically destroyed the mountain in which he was conducting his nuclear test, he's got no choice. He can't launch, he can't test, he can't develop. It would take billions and billions of dollars to develop a new test site. And the Chicoms do not have billions of anything except hungry people. Near the end of the Brett Baier interview with James Comey yesterday, Comey said that he regretted being fired, wished he hadn't been fired, and Brett Baier said, that's kind of strange. And Comey said, I'm sorry. I was like, what, are you telling me that you wouldn't mind still being FBI director, even though you think this guy in the White House is a mob boss, thug, reprobate pig? No, I would love to be there, because I would certainly want to protect the FBI and protect the United States. Of course, I would love to be there. And Brett Baier thought that was very odd that Comey has such hate and dislike for Trump that he would still want to be the FBI director. And a lot of people thought that was a big deal. I love doing these comparative analogies, because to me, it's not that big a deal. I can totally understand Comey in his ego wanting to be the director of the FBI, regardless who's the president. That's a big deal. Nation's #1 lawman, J. Edgar Hoover Jr. I am James Comey, and I can put you in jail. I'm James Comey, and I run the FBI. Yeah, but you don't like the president. Screw the president. I'm here to protect the FBI from the president. I'm willing to do that. It doesn't seem that big a contradiction to me, but a lot of people think that it is. A lot of people think if you don't like the boss that much, why would you want to work for him? But I think in Comey's mind, he wouldn't be working for Trump. Look at the title of his book, A Higher Loyalty. Now, he'd be saving the FBI. If he were still at the FBI, his agenda every day would be documenting how Donald Trump's trying to destroy it, and he, James Comey, is single-handedly saving it. Back to the phones. Pine Cliff, Colorado. This is Bill. Bill, I'm glad you called and waited. How are you, sir?
Hello, Rush. This is an honor. Bronx to Colorado Rockies 1988 listening dittos.
Thank you, sir, very much. I appreciate that. That's quite a trip.
I would like to give you my theory on Comey Brett Baier last night.
Okay, have at it.
I believe that Comey shows up late, as if Washington, D.C. rush hour traffic is a surprise, to A, shorten the interview, possibly B, throw Brett Baier off his game, and perhaps even preempt the all-star panel at the end of the show. He says, towards the end of an almost or over 2-week marathon interview session, that this fiction of the Steele memo was Republican-initiated to A, feed the low-information voters who never dig deeper than the headlines, and B, so that Fox News can report that the Steele dossier was started by Republicans.
Well, Fox News is not reporting that. If that was Comey's agenda, that's not happening. What we are reporting that Comey said that, and we're doing it with great incredulity and disbelief. But Comey did show up 15 minutes late. Comey was supposed to appear from the top of the show with Brett Baier, and they're going to go 35 or 40 minutes, and after that, the all-star panel, which, of course, would then analyze the Brett Baier interview of Comey. So Bill here thinks that Comey shows up at 6:15, shows up late. Brett Baier said he got a text message from the Comey entourage that said, in traffic. meaning we're running late, we're in traffic. So old Bill here is saying that doesn't wash with me. The idea that rush hour traffic is heavy in Washington is not a shock. That if you have a 6 p.m. appearance that is live, that you've got to be there by 5:30 for makeup and hair and makeup and hair and then makeup touch-up. Then you go sit on the set, get the lighting right, then more makeup and makeup touch-up. In other words, you got to get there at least 30 minutes. Can you imagine tuning in to watch the Super Bowl or any NFL game? The announcer saying, we just got a text. The visiting team is in traffic. It would not happen. The visiting team has to be there. The players have to be there 2.5, 3 hours before the game. In championships, like during the playoffs, the NFL used to require that the visiting team be there 48 hours in advance to allow for inclement weather, snowstorms, blizzards, that kind of thing. It's not the case anymore, but it used to be. But it is kind of crazy to know you're going to be live at 6 p.m. and be late with a text message in traffic, and then you end up being 15 minutes late. He may have a point. It might have been to cut off the all-star panel post-interview analyst. Lindsey Grahamnesty was on Fox and Friends this morning. Ainsley Earhart. By the way, Ainsley has a new book, My Inner Light, or The Light of My Light, or I forget what it is. But she went back to her alma mater today. She was in South Carolina on the road, and she was doing interviews. So give me the name of the book. I can't. It's something about light. Light is in the title. Light of my light. Light of my light. Something. I am light. Anyway, the light we see it is my light. The light within me is the title of Ainsley's new book. And she was talking today with Lindsey Grahamnesty, who is also from South Carolina, about the reports of an agreement between North and South Korea to end the Korean War. And Ainsley Earhart said, you saw the images, the leaders of North and South Korea together. You saw the news. Is this really going to end the war?
Here's the deal. It wouldn't have happened without Trump. Donald Trump convinced North Korea and China he was serious about bringing about change. We're not there yet, but if this happens, President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. A word of warning, the worst thing Kim Jong-un could do is play Trump. To go through all these motions and go back to the old way of doing business, Donald Trump will not tolerate being played. We're either going to have peace or we're going to have a war now, because Kim Jong-un has made a mistake if he's not serious, and that's playing Trump.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot going on here. Now, I told you about the likely destruction of the test mountains. And I know it sounds funny because it's that little cherubic, disco-loving, pot-bellied dictator that's done it. But the guy is a deadly tyrant who looks like a Cabbage Patch doll that you would have picked up at Walmart back in the 70s, if there had been a Walmart. I think there was. But the truth is, the guy is a vicious, bloody murderer, as his whole family has been. And the Chi-Coms have released news that the test mountains used for 6 underground nuclear tests have been destroyed, and that the tunnels built into the mountains so they could move material and the test devices through have collapsed. And so the facilities for testing nukes have been destroyed. And one of the mountains is on the Chi-Com North Korean border, where there might be some radiation leakage. In which case, the Chi-Coms would have read this guy the Riot Act. And somebody sent me an email. Rush, why wouldn't the Norks, or why wouldn't the Chi-Coms take credit? Why would they let Trump get credit if it was the Chi-Coms that actually told this guy to stand down? Because I don't think it's just that. I think there's a whole lot of other stuff that's happened that Kim Jong-un noticed. And I am holding those things here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. The first is a story from the Washington Free Beacon today. The headline, Mattis on Russian mercenaries in Syria. I ordered their annihilation. So it could well be that one of the reasons Kim Jong-un came to the table. By the way, remember, somebody sent me a note. How come every one of these guys is named Kim? I said, because Kim is the last name. They pronounce the last name first in China, in North Korea. So in the way we pronounce names, his name is actually Jong-un Kim. And his father was Il-sung Kim. But they pronounce the last name, the family name first. So Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-un. That's why they're all Kim. They all are Kim's last name. But you remember that Kim Jong-un was bragging as recently as January about his button, about his nuclear button. He said the whole territory of the U.S. is within the range of our nuclear strike, and a nuclear button is always on the desk of my office. Remember how Trump replied to that? I got a button too, and my button's bigger than yours. I don't think we should ignore the results of a little reported battle in Syria a month later, February 7th and February 8th, in which the Russian mercenaries were wiped off the face of the earth by U.S. forces. There were reports at the time that Russian mercenaries were absolutely stunned and overwhelmed by the ferocity of the Americans. It was Newsweek, February 23rd. They beat our asses like we were little pieces of crap. It's a Newsweek story. The Free Beacon today, Mattis on Russian mercenaries in Syria. I ordered their annihilation. Secretary of Defense James Mattis explained today why he directed a strike that reportedly killed hundreds of Russian mercenaries in Syria back in February. Mattis told the Senate Armed Services Committee the U.S. has a deconfliction line with Russia to ensure that the two countries can communicate in order to avoid a direct conflict with one another in Syria. He said that a group of irregular forces were in conflict with U.S. forces. Once it was ascertained those forces were not Russian regulars, i.e. they were mercenaries, Mattis directed a counterattack. The Russian high command in Syria assured us it was not their people. My direction to the chairman was for the force then to be annihilated, Mattis said, and it was. This is back in February. This is right after Kim Jong-un's been bragging about his nuclear button. And I think it is a relevant event in terms of timing that Kim Jong-un saw what American forces are capable of, and that the Russians stood aside. Because these were theoretically not Russian regulars, they were Russian mercenaries. So there is that to add to this. But here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that we have had, I don't know how many presidents deal with Korea since the late 1950s, and not a single thing changed except the North Koreans became more dangerous. The North Koreans continue to get more dangerous, and the United States often provided them the material to do so. The Clinton administration was famous for making deals with the North Koreans that would allow them to build up their electrical grid, nuclear power, in exchange for standing down developing nuclear weapons. Except they never stood down. And we had Madeleine Albright go over there during the Clinton years and come back and brag about all the achievements that have been made and all the accomplishments that have been made. The only thing that happened was that the Norks kept getting more powerful and stronger, leading to Kim Jong-un start testing his missiles and threatening to hit the continental U.S. Donald Trump gets elected and immediately starts talking to these people like they haven't been talked to before, threatening them like they haven't been threatened before, promising that great damage is going to occur to them if they don't stop it like they've never been promised before. And inside, it's not even a year and a half Trump's in office. And today, Kim Jong-un, or yesterday, walks across the demilitarized zone, and everybody's got a story saying the Korean War is over and that the North Koreans are denuclearizing. There isn't a single president that's even tried for this, because our State Department doesn't believe things like this are possible. You can't accomplish things like this with diplomacy, they say. And going to war is too dangerous, it's too risky. And so maintenance of the status quo is the objective. And wherever you look, maintenance of the status quo in the Middle East, maintenance of the status quo in Central America, maintenance of the status quo with illegal immigration, maintenance of not fixing anything, including the U.S. economy. Donald Trump comes in as an outsider and doesn't know this way of thinking. What do you mean? Why run for office? Why become president if all you're going to do is make sure things don't change? What's the point of that? Things are changing, and things are changing bigly, as they say, hugely, as they say. And I'm telling you, the Comeys and the Muellers and all these other people, in my vision, they're beginning to look really small. I know they think they're huge. I know they think they are giants. I know the never-Trumpers think that they are intellectual masterminds and giants. But I'm telling you, and they think Trump is just this blithering idiot who's stumbling into good fortune, doesn't even know why it's happening. But look how phony that world is. Barack Obama gets a Nobel Peace Prize on a cum. Barack Obama gets a Nobel Peace Prize because he's the first African-American elected president. Barack Obama gets a Nobel Peace Prize because he's a good liberal and supposedly doesn't like violence, and yet gets the country in more wars than George Bush and Bill Clinton combined. And he's getting a Nobel Peace Prize when he hasn't done anything but be president for a couple of months? How phony a world is that? How utterly, totally phony and flimsy is a world like that? You know, had it been me, I would have been embarrassed. I would have told the Nobel people, I don't deserve this or any other award anybody wants to give me right now, but this is a joke. But not Obama. Oh, no. Obama puts that serious, arrogant look on, puffs out his chest, walks over there and accepts the award like he's actually done something simply because he's alive. What arrogance. You don't have that with Trump. And yet that's what everybody thinks he is. They think he's an out-of-control, bumbling fool that's going to get us all into trouble, wrecking this and wrecking that. And all he's doing is fixing a bunch of things. Now, speaking of Trump, Kimberly Strassel has a column, How Trump Takes on Obstruction. We have a couple sound bites. I've got the column here, but let's listen to the sound bites and take a quick break. We'll come back and get some calls and analyze this. She was on with Melissa Francis today on Fox Happening Now. That's the hour before this program. Kimberly Strassel, a columnist, member of the Wall Street Journal editorial board. Melissa Francis, now remember the title of her column, How Trump Takes on Obstruction. First question, you say Trump could take two very bold actions to turn this entire investigation around. Tell me the first one.
By all accounts, Mr. Mueller is not looking at a collusion anymore. This is now about obstruction of justice. That requires a legal team that begins to make the argument that that is a non-starter on constitutional grounds, because you cannot construe a president to be obstructing justice when he's engaged in his core constitutional functions, and that includes directing law enforcement and firing people like Mr. Comey. So they need a team. They go to court. They get a declaratory judgment of that finding, and then Mr. Mueller, we can just take that entire topic off the table.
Here's her point. Her point is that the Trump legal team is too narrowly focused, that they're focused on defending and protecting Trump, and what they need to be focused on is defending and protecting the Constitution and the presidency and the executive branch. And in doing so, they'll take care of Trump. And her theory is that they're blowing it by looking at this as a singular attack on Trump, when it isn't. It's an attack on the Constitution. It is an attempt to say that any president exercising his constitutional duties is obstructing justice. He can't fire Comey. That's obstructing justice. That's bogus. Her point is the Constitution permits him control of the executive branch. He can do with anybody in the executive branch what he wants. He can declassify any file that he wants. He can make sure that we all can see the FISA warrant application. He can release everything. Nobody can stop him. Her point is actually very good. That any president exercising his constitutional duties cannot be guilty of obstruction, and yet that is exactly what the special counsel's investigating. Specifically, obstruction by firing Comey, because theoretically Comey was getting close to nailing Trump. Doesn't matter. That's all speculation. In other words, Trump needs a legal team that is going to take Mueller on with the charge that he is unconstitutional, that this investigation is unconstitutional because a president cannot be accused or found guilty of obstructing justice when he is carrying out constitutional presidential duties. And that is right on. And all I could add is exclamation point. And if Trump would get a legal team that is constitutional and is, stop worrying about defending Trump on whatever these bogus individual charges are, but get a legal team that's going to challenge the very constitutionality of this whole investigation and end it. At least the obstruction of justice element of it, because there can be no such thing. And if a sitting president is ever found guilty and is charged with obstructing justice, what does that do to every president that follows? It's just turned the Constitution upside down. It's not constitutional. None of this is even legal, is her point on the obstruction pursuit. Quick timeout. We'll be back. Don't go away. More to the Comey CNN Clapper dossier story and how it became public. And it is from the House Intelligence Committee report that was just released, which totally exonerates Trump of any collusion with Russia, was just released today. And some nuggets have been found in this. And it does provide a little bit of contradiction for what Comey's out there saying about when he briefed Trump on the dossier, and because CNN was on the verge of reporting it. How did he know that? It turns out James Clapper, who was Obama's director of national intelligence, James Clapper is the source of the dossier being leaked to CNN. Clapper did this, according to the committee report, after ordering Comey to brief Trump on it. The House Intelligence Committee report says that James Clapper, who tries to pass himself off as nonpartisan and uninterested, he just wants to take care of the United States against its bad guys by sifting through all the intelligence. Apparently, Clapper is who provided the Steele dossier to CNN after ordering Comey to brief Trump on the dossier. Remember, Comey said he briefed Trump on it because he had heard that CNN had it and that CNN was going to be running it. And he needed to tell Trump to warn Trump. Well, it turns out the whole thing was a staged scenario. And Trump is the victim. Comey didn't go up to Trump with any good intentions. He was, Mr. President, I got to warn you, there's something out there. I hear CNN's got it. It's going to be, I got to tell you about it. He was sent there by Clapper. Clapper ordered Comey to brief Trump on it because Clapper had made it available to CNN. That is how Comey knew that CNN was about to run with it, giving him the imprimatur to warn Trump about it. So, yet more evidence from the House Intel Committee report here of the essential conspiracy involving these establishment types against Donald Trump. Back here in just a second. It's always the middle of May. What people may not realize is that we're at the end of April. We really are. You know, one of the reasons why they have the weather, this is going to go down a record as one of the coldest Aprils in the northern half of the country ever. You know, we've had another cold front go through here last night. It's barely going to hit 80 this weekend. Normally here in April, the feel-like temperature's already pushing 90 every day. And we haven't had that yet. We haven't even closed. Monday was the closest we got to it for 3 hours. Cold front moved through here. So one of the reasons that it seems like it's happening fast because it's not warmed up in a lot of the country yet. But Mother's Day is coming, and you don't want to be scrambling a couple of weeks from now, figuring out where to go get flowers, who might have any that are still presentable for mom or the loved ones, the loved women in your family, because you don't have to wait now. 1-800-Flowers is ready to help today. They have a plentiful supply of roses. Now, when you get flowers at 1-800-Flowers, they pick them the day you designate for shipping. So if you want flowers shipped, let's say next Wednesday to arrive next Thursday or Friday, they'll pick them that day and ship them that day. That's why they last so long after they are delivered. They arrive fresh, aromatic, beautifully arranged, last for many days. A great Mother's Day gift. And you, look, you know as well as I do, flowers, Mother's Day, unbeatable combination. Flowers work any day. Believe me, any day of the year, but Mother's Day, you know you're going to do it. So I would just suggest you do it now while you're thinking about it and be able to have a check marked by something you know you've got to do down the road off your list. 1-800-Flowers has a whole bunch of different things that you can select from. A variety of special offers when you take action a couple of weeks out. 36 multicolored roses for $36. That's just one example that you'll find. $36 for 36 roses? That's 3 dozen. So go online to 1-800-Flowers.com. Look for the microphone icon, the top right side of your screen. Type my name in there. That's how you get the deals. 1-800-Flowers.com. You can call them, too, and use my name. But the web address, 1-800-Flowers.com. And remember to use the name Rush when you check out. Grab somebody number 25 pretty quickly. It's Angela Merkel today. Trump is in the midst of his second lengthy... Well, it's not a press. Well, it is. This one is a press conference. He talks to the press more than any president we've ever had. He just finished a riff on how he refused to sign off on a $1 billion embassy in Jerusalem, a new one that could be built for $150,000. Anyway, I want you to hear Angela Merkel and her reaction to Trump and the meeting that's coming up in North Korea.
Today we meet at a point in time where it has become very clear that the strength of the American president, where he really saw to it that the sanctions against North Korea are abided by, are respected, has opened new possibilities, opened new ways. This first meeting between Kim Jong-un and the South Korean President Moon is a first step on a road that will hopefully lead into a better future. We Germans know only too well what it means after years of separation, after years of division, to have these first contacts.
Talking about the Berlin Wall, she is comparing Trump bringing the two Koreas together to Reagan taking down the Berlin Wall, specifically referring to the strength of the American president. By the way, Chance the Rapper, the left has begun a destroy move on him, and he's changed his mind. He's now ripping Kanye. Just if you hadn't heard that, I just wanted to point it out. You had heard that. Chance the Rapper was advocating for Kanye yesterday. Today, Chance the Rapper is ripping Kanye. The forces of the left got to him. Now back to Kim Strassel. I never lose my place. People think I'm going to do that, but I never do. Kim Strassel, here is the second suggestion she has for wiping the Mueller investigation off the map.
This is another core constitutional function. As the commander-in-chief, he has the ability, ultimate say over classification, and he needs to just go direct the Justice Department to completely release everything underlying this FISA application, everything to do with the FBI's Russia investigation in 2016. Obviously, with deference to sources and methods, we don't want that to come out. But the public just needs to see all of this, and it's very clear the Department of Justice and FBI are doing their very best to keep it hidden, even from Congress.
She says that Trump should just declassify everything, which he can do. Let the American people see the documents that started this whole hoax. Let the American people see what it is the FBI, the DOJ do not even want Congress to see. Just declassify everything, including that FISA warrant application. Let's just see how they got that FISA warrant. What did they use? The dossier and what else? Trump can do it. So her ideas are twofold. Declassify everything, change the legal team, and challenge the very investigation Mueller is conducting. That Trump cannot be guilty of obstruction when he is performing his constitutional duties. And if Mueller continues and ends up charging Trump with obstruction, the Constitution's being stood upside down for not only Trump, but for every president following thereafter. We're getting a tornado. Are you hearing my watch go nuts in here, or is it just vibrating? You're not hearing. Got a tornado warning in this area until 3:15. Take shelter now. We're in shelter. We don't need to take shelter. We are shelter. Tornado warning in the next 35 minutes. I've just performed a service here. That's for us here in South Florida. It was all because my Apple Watch started going nuts on my wrist. See? Now, I'm going to take a call or two. We come back, got a break coming up. After that, Linda Vester has charged Tom Brokaw with being Charlie Rose Sr. Sexual abuse, sexual harassment. Brokaw is denying it. Shannon Bream at Fox News is backing up Linda Vester, who used to work at Fox. Shannon Bream says she's heard other women describe this kind of behavior from Brokaw. So that's coming up. But first, I want to grab Jeff in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Welcome, sir. Great to have you on the program.
Rush, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, you bet.
I was calling with regards to your top 10 female names.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've got a lot more than top 10. So I was wondering if I could run through it with you real fast.
Well, you claiming that I have more than 10?
Yes.
Top 10 favorite female names?
Yeah, so I have Jenny, Melanie, Jeanette, Megan, Sarah. Now, you could have said Sharon, but Allison, Amy, Morgan, Jennifer, Jenna, Tanisha, Jill, Jane, Nina, Marcia, Kaylin, Lori, Cheryl, Vincenzia, Ashley, Natalie, Isabella, Lauren, Misty, Alexis, and Lissa.
Well, all I can tell you is that when I mentioned each one of those names, it was in a list of 10 at the time.
Okay. But I was wondering why Laura wasn't on there.
By who?
Laura wasn't on there.
I don't know that I've ever had a call from somebody named Laura.
No? Okay. Because it's a good name, and it's a great Johnny Mercer song as well.
Yeah, it is a great name. A lot of women, a lot of classic women have the name Laura. I mean, it is tough having a top 10 list of favorite female names.
That's true.
So all of this is about the fact that you think I'm discriminating against Laura.
Oh, no. I just started noticing that there just seemed to be more than 10, so I started writing them down.
You did. You really did started writing them down.
Yeah,
well,
I have some dates if you want the dates.
Oh, no, I totally believe you. I'm not going to deny this. I just, some days, I was super host. Other days, my mind was not totally here. And answer this like James Comey would. Well, the best of my recollection, I've never been more than 10. Now, some people have said it's more than 10, and it might have been. I can't say for sure, but
they're all great names. That's what's important.
They are.
They
Absolutely.
But thanks for everything you do, Rush. We appreciate it out here.
Thank you, Jeff. I really, really appreciate that. It's a great open line Friday call, a great breaker of
the most trusted name